Chapter 1. The Wake-Up Call. Imagine this. You wake up tomorrow morning and realize every debt you carry, credit cards, student loans, car payments, even your mortgage is completely gone. The weight you've been carrying on your shoulders for years has vanished. Can you feel the relief in your chest? Can you hear the silence where the worry used to live? That is the promise of living debt-free. That is the future you deserve. But here's the hard truth. Most people never even dare to dream of that life, because debt has been sold to us as normal. From the moment we turned 18, we were handed credit card applications. The car dealership congratulated us on qualifying for a loan. The bank celebrated with us when we signed on a mortgage we barely understood. And somewhere along the way, we started believing the lie, that debt is just part of life. Pause and ask yourself, do I believe debt is normal? Do I believe it's unavoidable? If so, you've already bought into the system that profits off your chains. The wake-up call comes when you finally see debt for what it is. Not a tool, not a blessing, not a step toward wealth, but a trap. A trap designed to keep you working harder, longer, and with less freedom. The hidden cost of normal. Let's look around at the average American household. The Federal Reserve reports that the average family carries thousands of dollars in credit card debt alone. Add in car loans, student loans, and a mortgage, and many families are drowning before they even take their first breath of financial independence. Debt doesn't just cost you money, it costs you dreams. Every payment you send away each month is money that could have been building your future, funding your passion, or buying your freedom. Instead, it's lining the pockets of banks and lenders who celebrate every time you swipe that card. I want you to stop for a moment and reflect. What has debt cost you personally? Is it a dream you've postponed, a trip you never took, a career you were afraid to pursue? Take a deep breath, because this is your wake-up call. Stories of awakening. I once met a young couple who thought they were living the dream. They had 2 brand new cars in the driveway, a beautiful house filled with the latest gadgets, and weekends full of shopping trips. On the outside, it looked like success. But on the inside, it was a nightmare. They were buried under credit cards, behind on student loans, and living paycheck to paycheck. The wake-up call came when their credit card was declined at the grocery store. Embarrassed, they went home and finally opened their bills. For the first time, they faced the reality. They were not free. They were slaves to debt. But here's the inspiring part. Instead of sinking deeper, they chose a new path. They sold one of the cars, cut up their credit cards, and committed to a plan. Within 5 years, they were debt-free. Today, they live in a modest home, drive reliable used cars, and have more peace than they ever imagined. Pause and ask yourself, what would freedom feel like for me? Breaking the illusion. You may have noticed that everyone around you seems to be in the same situation. Friends, neighbors, co-workers, they all have payments. You may even hear them brag about their rewards points or low interest rate. But deep down, they are not bragging about freedom. They are defending their prison. Debt is the great illusion. It allows you to look wealthy while secretly keeping you broke. That shiny car in the driveway isn't theirs. It belongs to the bank. That dream vacation on Instagram? Paid for with plastic. And that giant house? A mortgage that will follow them for 30 years or more. Don't fall for the illusion. True wealth isn't about appearances. It's about freedom, peace, and security. The turning point. Right now, you are standing at a crossroads. One path leads deeper into debt, where stress, sleepless nights, and financial chains await. The other path leads to freedom, but it requires courage. It requires facing the numbers, changing habits, and saying no to the culture of borrowing. I want you to remember this. Debt is not your destiny. No matter how deep the hole feels, you can climb out. People with less income than you, with bigger challenges than you, have walked this path and found freedom. If they can do it, so can you. The first step is waking up, truly waking up to the reality of debt. And now, as you listen to this, your eyes are opening. This is the beginning of your transformation. A challenge for you. Before we close this chapter, I want to give you a challenge. Tonight, sit down and write out every single debt you owe. Every credit card, every loan, every monthly payment that isn't building your future. Don't round numbers, don't estimate, face it honestly. This exercise alone has brought people to tears because for the first time, they see the truth. But remember, truth is the first step to freedom. Pause here if you need to. Take the time. Write it down. Then come back when you're ready to begin the journey forward. Closing engagement. If this chapter spoke to you, I encourage you to reflect in the comments below. Share your thoughts. What was your wake-up call moment? Did you realize debt was holding you back? Let's inspire one another with real stories of change. And don't forget, like this video if it gave you hope, and subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this journey. Every chapter is another step toward your financial freedom. Because remember, you're not just learning how to pay off debt, you're learning how to live debt-free for life. Chapter 2. The Debt Trap. Debt rarely feels like a trap in the beginning. In fact, it usually feels like freedom. The first time you swipe a credit card, you feel powerful. The first time you sign the papers for a new car, you feel accomplished. And when the bank hands you the keys to a home you could never afford in cash, you feel successful. But underneath that feeling of power and success lies a carefully constructed illusion. One designed to keep you locked in for years, maybe decades. This is the debt trap. It's not accidental. It's a system built by industries, banks, and advertisers who profit when you stay hooked. They don't want you debt-free because your payments are their paychecks. Pause and ask yourself, who really benefits when I borrow money? Is it me or is it the lender? How the trap is set. The debt trap is not a single moment, it's a process. It starts with temptation. Advertisements tell you that you deserve it. Buy now, pay later flashes across the screen like a gift. Banks target young adults, offering credit cards with shiny perks. Card dealerships celebrate your approval as if it's an achievement. But approval is not freedom. Approval is the first chain. Then comes the normalization. Everyone around you is doing it, so it must be fine. Your coworker financed a new car. Your neighbor remodeled their kitchen with a home equity loan. Your cousin brags about earning airline miles on credit. It feels like the standard way of life. And that's the brilliance of the trap. When everyone around you is locked in, you don't even realize you're in a cage. The psychology of debt. Debt works because it preys on human psychology. Marketers and lenders know that our brains crave instant gratification. They know we would rather have something now and pay later, even if later means more stress, more money, and more years chained to bills. Think about it. When you swipe a credit card, it doesn't feel like spending. Your brain doesn't register the loss the same way it does when cash leaves your hand. That disconnect makes it easy to overspend, and before you know it, the debt balance grows. Pause and ask yourself, have I ever bought something on credit that I wouldn't have bought if I had to pay cash? The true cost. The trap isn't just about interest rates. It's about time. When you finance a car for 5 years, you're committing your future income. When you take out student loans, you're signing away years of work before you've even started your career. And when you carry credit card debt, you're paying interest so high it can double or triple the cost of the original purchase. Let's make it real. If you carry $5,000 on a credit card with a 20% interest rate, and you make only the minimum payments, do you know how long it could take to pay it off? Over 20 years. And by the time you're free, you could have paid more than double in interest. That's not freedom. That's slavery with a smiley face on the monthly statement. Stories from the trap. I once met a man who financed his dream truck. He told himself he deserved it, and the dealership told him he was lucky to qualify. The payments were steep, but he figured he could handle it. 6 months later, he was behind. Every month was a scramble, every unexpected expense a disaster. His truck wasn't a symbol of freedom anymore. It was a chain, dragging him deeper into stress. Eventually, he sold the truck at a loss just to escape the payments. And in that painful moment, he realized the truth. The lender never cared if he could really afford it. They cared only that he signed on the dotted line. Pause and ask yourself, what debt in my life feels more like a burden than a blessing? Why the trap is so hard to escape? The most dangerous thing about the debt trap is that it becomes part of your identity. People say, I'll always have a car payment, or student loans are just the price of an education, or everyone has a mortgage, it's normal. But normal is not working. Not. Normal is stressed, broke, and enslaved to banks. Normal is watching your paycheck vanish before you even see it. Normal is waking up at 40 or 50 years old, realizing you've worked for decades and still don't own anything outright. That's why the first step to escaping is breaking the belief that debt is normal. Because until you challenge that belief, you'll keep living in the same cycle. The way out. The good news? Every trap has a way out. And your way out begins with awareness. You've already started. By listening to this, by questioning what you've been told, you're pulling back the curtain on the system. The next step is choice. You must decide that you no longer want to live like everyone else. You must decide that the illusion of normal isn't worth the chains. And once that decision is made, the path forward will become clear. In later chapters, we'll walk step by step through that path. You'll learn exactly how to build a foundation, destroy your debt, and build wealth without borrowing a penny. But right now, it begins with a decision. Pause and ask yourself, am I ready to step out of the trap, even if it means living differently than those around me? A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write down every advertisement, every message, or every voice in your life that has encouraged you to borrow. Maybe it was a bank commercial. Maybe it was a car salesman. Maybe it was even a friend. See how often the world pushes you toward debt. Awareness of those voices will give you the power to ignore them. Closing engagement. If this chapter opened your eyes, share your thoughts in the comments. What's the biggest debt trap you've seen in your own life or in the lives of people you know? And if this message gave you clarity, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with us as we continue this journey. The best chapters are ahead, and so is your freedom. Because the debt trap may be powerful, but once you see it for what it is, you have the power to escape it for life. Chapter 3. Redefining Wealth. When most people hear the word wealth, their minds immediately fill with images, mansions, luxury cars, designer clothes, and vacations on private islands. We've been trained to associate wealth with things you can see, touch, and show off. But here's the shocking truth. Those images don't represent real wealth. More often than not, they represent debt. Think about it. The person driving the newest car might be buried in a 6-year loan. The family living in the biggest house on the block may barely scrape together the mortgage. The friend posting glamorous vacation photos could be juggling credit card balances to fund those trips. On the outside, it looks like success. On the inside, it's stress. So if wealth isn't about appearances, what is it really? Wealth is freedom. Wealth is choice. Wealth is security. True wealth isn't about what you show, it's about what you keep. Pause and ask yourself, have I been chasing the image of wealth or the reality of it? The illusion of looking rich. The modern world celebrates looking rich. Social media is a highlight reel of leased cars, borrowed outfits, and debt-fueled lifestyles. We live in a culture where appearances often matter more than financial stability. But here's the irony. Many of the people who look rich are often the farthest from true wealth. I once spoke with a man who earned over 6 figures a year. He lived in a huge home, drove luxury vehicles, and wore all the latest brands. To anyone who met him, he was the picture of success. But behind the scenes, he was drowning in payments. He admitted to me one day, with tears in his eyes, I'm one paycheck away from losing it all. Contrast that with another family I met who lived modestly. They drove older cars, lived in a simple home, and didn't flaunt their money. But they had no debt. They had savings. They had investments quietly growing in the background. They didn't look rich, but they had the one thing the flashy man didn't: peace of mind. Pause and ask yourself, Which would I rather have? Looking wealthy or being truly free? Redefining success. If you want to be debt-free for life, you have to redefine what success means to you. Success is not about possessions, it's about position. The position to say yes to opportunities. The position to walk away from a toxic job. The position to give generously without fear. True success is living below your means, not above them. It's building a life where you control your money instead of money controlling you. It's about aligning your spending with your values instead of chasing validation from others. This is a radical shift because the world will constantly pressure you to prove your worth with purchases. But remember this, people who matter don't care what brand you wear, and people who care about the brand you wear don't matter. The quiet millionaires. There's a fascinating study that revealed most millionaires don't live in flashy neighborhoods. They don't drive the latest luxury cars. They don't spend their money trying to impress strangers. Instead, they save, invest, and quietly build wealth while the world assumes they're just average. I once met a man who worked as a school teacher his entire life. He never earned a huge salary. He never bought a fancy car. He wore the same pair of shoes until they wore out. But he lived debt-free, invested consistently, and avoided the trap of appearances. By the time he retired, he was a millionaire. Not because he hit the lottery or made a risky investment, but because he redefined wealth as freedom, not flash. That's what I want for you. Not just more stuff, but more freedom. Pause and ask yourself, what does real wealth look like in my life? The cost of chasing appearances. Every dollar you spend trying to look rich is a dollar you can't use to become rich. Every payment for a car that depreciates is money you could have invested. Every shopping spree fueled by emotion is a delay in your journey to freedom. Here's the sobering truth. Most people are not broke because they don't earn enough. They're broke because they're spending their money trying to look like they have more than they do. It's a cycle of appearances that ends in emptiness. But you can break it. You can choose to stop chasing the image and start building the reality. A new definition of wealth. So let's rewrite the definition together. Wealth is not a car. It's the ability to buy a car without payments. Wealth is not a vacation photo. It's the freedom to travel without debt. Wealth is not a big house. It's a paid-for home that no bank can take from you. Wealth is not about showing off. It's about sleeping peacefully at night, knowing your money is working for you. That's the vision I want you to hold on to. That's the kind of wealth worth chasing. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write down your personal definition of wealth. Not society's definition, not your neighbor's definition, yours. Ask yourself, what would a wealthy life look like for me? Maybe it's freedom to work less. Maybe it's the ability to give generously. Maybe it's the peace of knowing your family is secure. When you know your definition, every financial decision becomes easier. If it doesn't bring you closer to that vision, it's not worth it. Closing engagement. Now, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me, what's your personal definition of wealth? Forget what the world says. What does wealth mean to you? And if this chapter gave you a new perspective, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs a wake-up call. Remember, wealth isn't about what you show. It's about what you keep and how free you feel when money no longer owns you. That is the heart of being debt-free for life. Chapter 4. Taking inventory. If you want to change your financial future, you can't start with wishful thinking. You have to start with reality. And reality means facing the numbers. This is where many people stall in their journey, because the thought of pulling out bills, balances, and bank statements can feel overwhelming, even terrifying. But listen closely. The truth may sting, but it's also the key to your freedom. Imagine a doctor trying to treat a patient without knowing the diagnosis. That's impossible. The same goes for your finances. If you don't know where you stand, you can't create a plan to move forward. This chapter is about taking inventory, gathering every detail of your financial picture so that you finally see the truth in black and white. Pause and ask yourself, am I ready to face the real numbers, even if they scare me? Why we avoid the truth. Let's be honest. Most people don't like looking at their bills. They pile them on the counter, ignore the credit card statement, or avoid opening the student loan email. Why? Because every reminder of debt brings a wave of guilt, shame, and fear. It feels easier to look away. But avoidance doesn't erase the problem, it makes it worse. Ignoring debt is like ignoring a fire in your kitchen. Pretending it isn't there doesn't put it out. It just allows it to spread. The moment you face your financial reality, you take back power. You shift from victim to fighter. And that's when change begins. Step 1. List every debt. Here's your first task. Write down every single debt you owe. Don't guess. Don't round. Don't soften the numbers. Get exact. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, medical bills, personal loans, even the money you borrowed from family, write it all down. For each debt, record the total balance, the interest rate, the minimum monthly payment. This list is your wake-up call. For some, it's the hardest step of the entire journey because it brings reality crashing in. But remember, clarity is power. You can't destroy what you refuse to name. Pause and ask yourself, do I know exactly how much I owe, or am I still guessing? Step 2. Know your net worth. Net worth may sound like a fancy financial term, but it's simple. Add up everything you own, your assets, then subtract everything you owe, your debts. That number, positive or negative, is your net worth. For many, this exercise is shocking. Some discover they're technically worth less than zero. But don't panic. A negative net worth is not a death sentence. It's just a starting point. And from this point, every step you take forward will increase your true wealth. Step 3. Track your spending. Debt isn't just about what you owe. It's about what you spend. Until you track where your money is going, you'll always feel like it slips through your fingers. For the next 30 days, write down every dollar you spend. Yes, every coffee, every snack, every subscription, every swipe of the card. By the end of the month, you'll see your habits clearly, sometimes painfully. And those habits will reveal why you've been stuck. I once worked with a woman who swore she didn't spend much. When she tracked her money for 30 days, she discovered she had spent nearly $400 on takeout. Her jaw dropped. She didn't realize small daily decisions had been eating her financial future. Pause and ask yourself, if I tracked my spending today, what surprises might I find? The power of facing the numbers. When you have all the information in front of you, debts, net worth, spending, you gain something priceless. Control. Suddenly, the fog lifts. Suddenly, you can see where the leaks are, where the chains are, and where the opportunities lie. Facing the numbers doesn't mean shaming yourself. It means arming yourself with truth. The past is gone. You can't undo it. But you can choose what to do with the truth today. Stories of transformation. One man I coached refused to face his debts for years. He told himself, I don't want to know. But when he finally took inventory, he discovered he was paying over $600 a month in interest alone. Just interest. That moment lit a fire under him. Within 4 years, he paid off everything, and today he says, I only regret not facing the truth sooner. Another family sat down with their kids and made it a family project. They listed everything, calculated totals, and together said, this ends with us. Instead of shame, they found unity. Together, they worked the plan. And today, they live free of payments. Your story can be the next one. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Take inventory tonight. Gather every bill, every balance, every statement, and write them down. Create your debt list. Calculate your net worth. Track your spending starting today. Don't wait for the right time. The right time is now. Because every day you wait is another day chained to debt. But every step you take toward truth is a step toward freedom. Pause here if you need to and do it now. Your future self will thank you. Closing engagement. Now I want to hear from you. How did it feel to take inventory of your debts? Were you shocked, scared, relieved, or motivated? Share your thoughts in the comments below. You might inspire someone else to face their own truth. And if this chapter gave you clarity, hit that like button, subscribe for more, and share this with a friend who needs to hear it. Remember, you can't win a battle you refuse to fight. But by taking inventory, you've already taken the first swing at debt. And this swing could be the one that changes your life. Chapter 5. The emotional side of money. Money isn't just math. If it were, we'd all be rich and debt-free already. Think about it. The numbers are simple. Spend less than you earn. Save and invest the difference. Avoid debt. On paper, it's easy. But in real life, our emotions get in the way. Fear, shame, pride, guilt, even excitement. All of them influence how we handle money. That's why understanding the emotional side of money is crucial to breaking free from debt. If you only focus on the numbers without addressing the feelings behind them, you'll keep repeating the same mistakes. Pause and ask yourself, what emotions drive my money decisions the most? Fear, pride, or something else? The shame cycle. For many people, debt is tied to shame. You see the credit card bill and feel embarrassed. You avoid opening the envelope because it feels like proof of failure. You compare yourself to others and think, why can't I get it together like them? But here's the truth. You are not your debt. Debt is something you have, not something you are. Shame keeps you stuck because it tells you that you don't deserve freedom. But the moment you separate your identity from your mistakes, you open the door to change. One woman I spoke with carried over $60,000 in debt. For years, she told no one, not even her husband, because she felt so ashamed. When she finally confessed, instead of judgment, she found support. Together, they created a plan and started paying it down. The shame she carried alone dissolved the moment she let in honesty and accountability. Pause and ask yourself, am I carrying shame about my finances that I need to release? The fear factor. Fear is another powerful emotion around money. Fear of running out. Fear of losing a job. Fear of an emergency. Fear can push people into borrowing more, thinking, I'll figure it out later. Ironically, that fear-driven choice creates even more fear down the road when payments pile up. But fear can also be a motivator. I once knew a man who got a foreclosure notice on his home. The fear of losing his house became the fuel that changed everything. He cut expenses, picked up extra work, and poured every dollar into catching up. Fear woke him up, but then determination took over. The goal isn't to eliminate fear, it's to channel it into action. The pride problem. Pride is one of the sneakiest emotional traps with money. Pride says, I deserve this. Pride says, I can handle it. Pride says, I want people to see my success. And pride often leads to overspending, borrowing, and financial chains. I'll never forget a young man who financed an expensive sports car. He admitted later, I couldn't afford it, but I wanted to prove to everyone I was doing well. For a while, people admired his car, but eventually they stopped noticing. Meanwhile, his payment remained. His pride had cost him years of stress. When you let go of pride, you find freedom. You stop living for others' approval and start building a life that actually works. Pause and ask yourself, am I making financial decisions to impress others or to create freedom for myself? The guilt trap. Many parents overspend because of guilt. They think, I didn't have this growing up, so I want my kids to have more. The intention is loving, but the outcome can be harmful, both for the parent's finances and for the kid's mindset. Real love isn't about buying everything your children want. Real love is modeling responsibility, discipline, and security. The best gift you can give your children is not the latest toy, but a debt-free future where stress doesn't dominate your home. The power of awareness. When you become aware of the emotions behind your spending, you gain control. Instead of swiping your card out of fear or shame, you can pause and ask, why am I doing this? That pause is powerful. It's the space where you can choose a different path. Here's a practical exercise. The next time you're about to spend, stop and ask, am I buying this out of need or out of emotion? If it's emotion, wait 24 hours before making the purchase. Most of the time, the desire fades, and you keep your money. Rewriting your money story. Every person carries a money story shaped by childhood, culture, and past experiences. Maybe you grew up hearing, "We can't afford that," and now you overspend to compensate. Maybe you saw your parents fight about money, so you avoid it altogether. Maybe you were taught that debt is normal, so you never questioned it. But here's the good news. You can rewrite your money story. You don't have to repeat the past. You can decide today that your story is one of freedom, not bondage. One of peace, not stress. Pause and ask, what money story have I been living, and how do I want to rewrite it? A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write down the top 3 emotions you feel most often about money. Is it fear, pride, shame, guilt? Then, write down one practical way to challenge each emotion. For example, if fear drives you, commit to building a small emergency fund. If pride drives you, practice gratitude for what you already have. If guilt drives you, remember that love is not measured in purchases. Awareness plus action equals transformation. Closing engagement. Now I want to hear from you. What emotion has had the biggest impact on your money choices? Share it in the comments. Your honesty might encourage someone else who feels the same way. And if this chapter gave you clarity, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with someone you care about. Because breaking free from debt isn't just about numbers, it's about healing your relationship with money. And when you heal that relationship, you don't just change your finances, you change your life. Chapter 6. Building your financial foundation. Imagine building a house without a foundation. You could spend thousands on bricks, wood, and roofing, but without a solid base, the whole thing would collapse at the first sign of pressure. That's exactly what happens to most people's finances. They try to get ahead without first building a strong foundation, and the result is a life that looks stable on the outside but is crumbling underneath. Before you can tackle debt aggressively, before you can invest, before you can dream bigger, you need a foundation. That foundation is stability. It's the security of knowing that if life throws you a curveball, you won't immediately fall back into panic and debt. Pause and ask yourself, have I built a solid financial foundation, or am I trying to build wealth on shaky ground? The first step, an emergency fund. The cornerstone of your foundation is an emergency fund. Not a vacation fund, not a shopping spree fund, but a real safety net for life's surprises. Because life will surprise you. Cars break down, kids get sick, jobs disappear. If you're not prepared, those moments push you straight back into the arms of debt. Here's the simple truth. If you don't have savings, debt will always be your backup plan. And if debt is your backup plan, you'll never be free. Start small. I recommend building a $1,000 emergency fund as fast as possible. It's not about covering every possible disaster. It's about giving yourself breathing room. That $1,000 between you and panic is the beginning of freedom. Why small wins matter. You might think, but $1,000 isn't enough. And you're right, it's not enough for everything. But here's why it matters. Small wins create momentum. Think about a snowball rolling down a hill. At first, it's tiny. But as it rolls, it picks up more snow, grows bigger, and moves faster. That's how your financial journey works. Start with one small victory like building a $1,000 emergency fund, and suddenly, you feel capable. That energy propels you toward bigger victories. I've seen people try to skip this step and go straight into debt payoff without a safety net. Guess what happens? The first emergency like a flat tire knocks them off course. They go right back into debt and feel defeated. But when you have that small cushion, you stay on track. Pause and ask yourself, what's stopping me from saving my first $1,000 right now? Cutting to build the fund. So how do you build that first emergency fund? You get scrappy. Sell something you don't need. Cut eating out for a month. Pause subscriptions. Pick up a few extra hours at work. The goal isn't comfort, it's speed. The faster you build the fund, the faster you can move forward. I once knew a family who sold an old set of furniture in their garage. That sale alone gave them $500 toward their emergency fund. In one weekend, they cut their risk in half. Sometimes the money is right in front of you. You just have to be willing to let go of things that don't matter as much as your freedom. The psychology of safety. Don't underestimate what a small emergency fund does for your mind. Before, every unexpected expense caused stress. With even a modest cushion, your perspective changes. Suddenly, an emergency is just an inconvenience, not a crisis. That shift in mindset is powerful, because when you're calm, you make better financial decisions. Money isn't just about numbers, it's about peace of mind. And peace begins with preparation. Stories of stability. One single mom I worked with was overwhelmed by debt. Her first goal was to build her emergency fund. She sold clothes, worked weekends, and saved every dollar. Within a month, she had $1,000 tucked away. She told me, "For the first time in years, I feel like I can breathe." That sense of security gave her the confidence to attack her debts. And within 3 years, she was completely free. Another man shared that before his emergency fund, every car repair ended with him swiping a credit card. Once he built his fund, he paid cash the next time his car broke down. He said, "It wasn't fun, but it didn't ruin me." That's the power of a foundation. Expanding the foundation. Once your debts are gone, you'll grow your emergency fund to cover 3 to 6 months of expenses. That's when you'll feel bulletproof, when you know you could lose your job tomorrow and still keep your family secure. But don't jump ahead. For now, focus on the starter emergency fund. Build it fast, then move on to the next step. Remember, foundations are laid brick by brick, not all at once. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Commit to building your $1,000 emergency fund immediately. Tonight, make a list of things you can sell, expenses you can cut, or side income you can generate. Set a deadline, no more than 30 days. The urgency will drive your creativity. Pause and ask yourself, if I build this fund in the next 30 days, how much lighter will I feel? Closing engagement. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever faced an emergency without savings? How did it affect you? And what difference would a small emergency fund make in your life right now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. You might inspire someone else to take action. And if this chapter encouraged you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs this foundation. Because freedom isn't built overnight. It's built step by step, and the first step is creating the foundation that holds everything else together. Chapter 7. The Debt Snowball Effect. If you've ever stood on a snowy hill, you know how a small snowball works. At first, it's tiny. But as you roll it down the hill, it gathers more snow, gets bigger, and picks up speed. Soon, it becomes a force that's hard to stop. That's exactly how you're going to pay off your debts using momentum instead of willpower alone. This is the power of the debt snowball method, and it's the single most effective strategy I've seen for breaking free from debt forever. Pause and ask yourself, what would it feel like to finally see my debts disappear, one by one, for good? Why math alone doesn't work. If we were robots, we'd always pay off the debt with the highest interest rate first. That's the mathematically smart move. But here's the problem. People don't live by math. We live by motivation. If you've been in debt for years, the battle isn't just about numbers, it's about hope. And hope grows with wins. The debt snowball works because it gives you quick, visible victories. Those victories create energy, and that energy is what keeps you going. How the debt snowball works. Here's the step-by-step process. List your debts from smallest to largest balance. Ignore the interest rates for now. Pay minimum payments on everything except the smallest debt. Throw every extra dollar at the smallest debt until it's gone. Once that debt is paid off, take its payment and roll it into the next smallest debt. Repeat the process. Each time a debt disappears, your payment power snowballs. At first, progress feels small, But with every debt that falls, your momentum builds. Soon, what once felt impossible becomes unstoppable. A story of momentum. I once worked with a couple who had over $60,000 in debt spread across credit cards, car loans, and student loans. They had tried the highest interest first approach and failed after 6 months. Why? Because it felt like nothing was changing. When they switched to the debt snowball, everything shifted. Within 2 months, they wiped out their smallest $800 credit card. The victory gave them energy. Then they tackled the next $2,000 card. Each win felt like a celebration, and with each win, they freed up more money to attack the next debt. In less than 3 years, they were completely debt-free. They told me, "It wasn't math that set us free. It was momentum." Pause and ask yourself, would quick wins motivate me more than waiting years for a single payoff? Why small first works. Paying off small debts first may sound backwards, but it works because of psychology. Humans crave progress. When you knock out a small debt, even if it's only a few $100s, you feel like you're winning. And when you feel like you're winning, you don't quit. Think about dieting or fitness. If you see results after the first few weeks, you're more likely to stick with it. If you see no change, you give up. Money works the same way. Quick wins are the key to lasting change. Common objections. Some people argue, but isn't paying off high-interest debt first smarter? Mathematically, yes. But here's the truth. Debt freedom isn't about being smart, it's about being free. And if math alone worked, none of us would be in debt. I'd rather see you become debt-free using a method that works for human behavior than stuck in debt because you tried to be perfect with numbers. Celebrating victories. Every time you pay off a debt, celebrate. I don't mean go on a shopping spree that defeats the purpose. I mean mark the moment. Burn the statement. Throw a small debt-free party. Share your progress with your family. Celebration cements success in your brain. It tells you, this is working. Keep going. And the more you celebrate, the stronger your momentum grows. Building unstoppable energy. The snowball gets powerful because every time you pay something off, the payment amount doesn't disappear. It grows your attack on the next debt. Imagine you're paying $100 on one debt and $200 on another. When the $100 debt is gone, that $100 joins the $200. Suddenly, you're paying $300. Later, that $300 snowballs into $500, then $800, then $200. At first, it feels slow, but soon it becomes unstoppable. That's when you'll look at your list and realize, I can actually do this. Pause and ask yourself, what would it mean for me to see my list of debts shrinking instead of growing? A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write out your debt snowball list. Order your debts from smallest to largest. Then pick your first target, the smallest balance. Commit tonight to throwing everything you can at it until it's gone. Even if it's only a $200 store card, wipe it out. Taste the victory. Let that win fuel the next one. Closing engagement. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's the first debt on your snowball list? Share it in the comments and let's cheer each other on. Every story of progress is proof that this works. And if this chapter fired you up, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend who's ready to roll their own debt snowball. Because once you start this process, your momentum will grow, your hope will rise, and before long you'll realize the truth. Nothing can stop you from becoming debt-free for life. Chapter 8. Breaking the Chains of Credit. For most people today, credit isn't just an option. It's a way of life. Swipe a card, sign your name, and walk away with anything you want. It feels effortless, powerful, even normal. But behind the glossy commercials and reward points, credit is nothing more than a chain. A chain that keeps millions of people working harder, staying stressed, and handing their future over to banks. If you want to live debt-free for life, you must make a radical decision. Break the chains of credit. That means cutting the cord between you and borrowing forever. Pause and ask yourself, am I willing to give up credit if it means gaining my freedom? The myth of good debt. One of the greatest lies sold to us is the idea of good debt. People say, it's good to have a credit card for emergencies, or you need debt to build credit, or leverage is how the wealthy get ahead. But let's look at reality. If credit cards were so good, why are millions of people drowning in them? If student loans were such a blessing, why is there a generation struggling under their weight decades after graduation? If leverage is the secret to wealth, why do so many leveraged families lie awake at night worrying about payments? Debt is debt. Every dollar you owe is a dollar you don't own, and every payment you send is a piece of your future given away. Credit cards, the illusion of power. Credit cards are marketed as tools of convenience and sophistication. They promise points, perks, and prestige. But the truth is, credit cards are designed to keep you in debt. Did you know the average household that carries credit card debt pays hundreds, sometimes thousands, just in interest each year? That's money you could have used to save, invest, or build your dreams. Instead, it vanishes into the pockets of lenders. I met a young man who had over 10 credit cards. He told himself he was managing them wisely. But the truth was, he was juggling balances and barely keeping up. When he finally cut them up and switched to using cash and debit only, he said, I feel like I got my life back. Pause and ask yourself, have I been believing the myth that credit cards are my friend? Breaking free from borrowing. Here's the radical truth. You don't need credit to live. You can buy cars with cash. You can save for emergencies. You can rent apartments without a credit card. Yes, it requires discipline. Yes, it requires patience. But discipline and patience build freedom. Credit builds chains. Think about it. Every time you use credit, you're saying, I don't have the money today, but I'll pay for it later. And later always costs more. Later robs you of peace. Later is the reason so many people feel trapped. When you decide, I'm done borrowing, you slam the door shut on that trap forever. The fear of letting go. I know what you might be thinking, but what if I need credit for emergencies? That fear is exactly why you built your emergency fund. That fund is your safety net, not a lender. Or maybe you're thinking, but how will I build credit without using credit? Here's the truth. You don't need a credit score when you don't borrow money. The goal isn't to impress banks, it's to live free from them. I once worked with a woman who cut up her last credit card and panicked, wondering if she'd survive without it. Within 6 months, she told me, I can't believe how free I feel. I thought I needed credit, but I don't. Living without credit. When you break the chains of credit, you begin to live differently. You save before you spend. You buy only what you can afford. You stop comparing yourself to others because your decisions are based on freedom, not appearances. Yes, it feels slower at first. You won't be able to instantly buy everything you want. But here's the trade-off. You'll finally sleep at night. You'll finally own your future. And over time, you'll realize you're actually moving faster toward wealth than your credit-using friends, because you're not throwing money away on interest. Pause and ask yourself, what would my life look like if I never owed another lender again? A story of radical change. I once knew a couple who decided to live without credit entirely. Friends laughed at them, saying, that's impossible in today's world. But they stuck to it. They paid cash for cars. They rented until they had a strong down payment for a home. They saved for vacations instead of charging them. Years later, those same friends who mocked them were still drowning in payments, while this couple owned everything outright. They weren't flashy, but they were free. And freedom, my friend, always wins. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Gather your credit cards and decide. Will you cut them up? Will you close them down? At the very least, will you commit to never swiping them again? Write down your fears about living without credit. Then write down the freedom you'd gain by letting go. Compare the two lists and decide which matters more. Closing engagement. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below. Do you believe credit is a chain or a tool? What fears do you have about living without it? Let's talk about it honestly. And if this chapter gave you courage, like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs to hear that freedom is possible. Because the truth is simple. As long as you rely on credit, you'll never be free. But the day you cut those chains, you'll begin the journey toward a life that no lender can control. That's what it means to live debt-free for life. Chapter 9. Living below your means, above your dreams. The phrase living below your means often sounds like punishment. People imagine it as deprivation, giving up fun, cutting out joy, and living a boring life of endless sacrifice. But that's a myth. In truth, living below your means is the fastest way to live above your dreams. When you spend less than you earn, you create margin. And margin is where freedom lives. Margin is the difference between stress and peace, between paycheck-to-paycheck living and financial security. Margin is what allows you to build wealth, invest in your future, and create a life you love. Pause and ask yourself, am I truly living below my means? Or am I just surviving paycheck to paycheck? The illusion of more. Our culture glorifies more. Bigger homes, newer cars, nicer clothes. Advertisers tell us that if we just had one more thing, we'd finally be happy. But here's the irony. The people who chase more are often the most trapped. Every new purchase comes with payments, and every payment steals a piece of their future. I once met a man who earned over $200,000 a year. By all appearances, he was wealthy. But when he opened up about his finances, he admitted he was broke. Why? Because he spent every dollar and then some. His income was high, but his lifestyle was higher. On the other hand, I know a couple who earned far less but lived well within their means. They drove older cars, packed lunches, and avoided debt. Over time, their margin grew. They invested, saved, and eventually retired early. They didn't just live below their means, they lived above their dreams. Pause and ask yourself, have I been chasing more or creating margin? The power of contentment. Contentment is the secret weapon of financial freedom. When you're content, you don't need to buy approval, prove yourself, or chase what others have. You find joy in simplicity, peace in enough, and gratitude for what you already own. Contentment doesn't mean you never upgrade or improve your life. It means you stop using money as a bandage for insecurity. Instead, you spend intentionally on things that truly matter. I once heard someone say, gratitude turns what you have into enough. That's the heart of contentment. Practical ways to live below your means. Living below your means isn't complicated. Here are a few practical ways to get started. Downsize your lifestyle. Drive a reliable used car instead of financing a new one. Move into a home that fits your budget, not your ego. Cut recurring expenses. Cancel subscriptions you don't use. Negotiate bills. Switch to more affordable services. Cook at home. Eating out is one of the fastest ways to burn money without realizing it. Delay gratification. Wait before buying non-essentials. Often, the desire fades. Automate savings. Pay yourself first by moving money into savings before you have the chance to spend it. These small adjustments create margin, and margin creates freedom. Why this feels hard. Living below your means feels hard at first because it goes against the culture around you. You'll see friends upgrading cars, remodeling kitchens, and taking exotic trips on credit. You'll feel the pull to keep up. But here's the truth. Many of those same friends are broke. They're stressed, worried, and hiding financial struggles behind Instagram posts. If you could see behind the curtain, you wouldn't want their life. The discipline to live differently today will give you the freedom to live extraordinarily tomorrow. Pause and ask yourself, am I willing to look different now so I can live free later? Stories of transformation. I once knew a young woman who moved back in with her parents for a year to save money. Her friends teased her, but she stayed focused. That year of sacrifice allowed her to pay off all her student loans. Today, she owns her home outright, while her friends are still buried in payments. Another man I coached sold his luxury car and bought a modest used one. At first, he felt embarrassed. But within a year, he had saved thousands. He told me, "I realized my pride wasn't worth the price tag." Now, he lives with peace instead of pressure. Living above your dreams. Here's the beautiful part. When you live below your means, you unlock the ability to live above your dreams. You can travel without debt. You can give generously to causes you care about. You can take risks, like starting a business or changing careers, because you're not chained to payments. This isn't deprivation. It's liberation. It's choosing a simple, intentional life today so you can live an extraordinary one tomorrow. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Track your lifestyle choices for the next 30 days and identify one area where you can deliberately live below your means. Maybe it's eating out less, driving a cheaper car, or resisting the urge to upgrade your phone. Write it down, commit to it, and see how much margin you can create. Pause and ask yourself, if I created more margin in my life, how much more peace would I feel? Closing engagement. Now I want to hear from you. What's one way you can start living below your means this month? Share it in the comments. Your example might inspire someone else to take the same step. And if this chapter encouraged you, hit like, subscribe for more, and share this video with a friend who needs to hear that living below your means isn't losing, it's winning. Because the truth is, when you live below your means, you position yourself to rise above your dreams. That's the path to true financial freedom. Chapter 10. Reprogramming your money mindset. Every decision you've ever made with money started in one place, your mind. Long before you swiped a card, signed a loan, or clicked buy now, you thought something, believed something, or felt something that led to that choice. That's why lasting change isn't just about budgets and numbers. It's about mindset. If you want to be debt-free for life, you must reprogram how you think about money. Because the mindset that got you into debt cannot be the same mindset that leads you out. Pause and ask yourself, what beliefs about money have been controlling my choices without me even realizing it? The stories we tell ourselves. Every person carries a money story. Maybe you grew up hearing, money doesn't grow on trees, or rich people are greedy, or we'll always struggle. Without realizing it, those phrases become part of your inner script. They shape how you see money and what you believe is possible. For example, if you believe you'll always struggle, you may not even try to get ahead. If you believe money is evil, you may sabotage yourself every time you start to succeed. But here's the truth. Money itself is neutral. It's simply a tool. It magnifies who you already are. If you're generous, money makes you more generous. If you're irresponsible, money makes you more irresponsible. The key isn't fearing money, it's mastering it. Identifying limiting beliefs. One of the most powerful steps in reprogramming your mindset is identifying limiting beliefs. Write down the thoughts you catch yourself repeating about money. Things like, I'll never get out of debt. I'm just bad with money. I don't make enough to save. Only lucky people get wealthy. These beliefs feel true because you've repeated them for years. But they're not truth. They're lies disguised as facts. And every lie you hold on to becomes a barrier between you and freedom. Pause and ask yourself, what limiting belief about money have I accepted as truth? Replacing the script. Once you identify your limiting beliefs, you can replace them with empowering ones. For example, replace I'll never get out of debt with I am becoming debt-free step by step. Replace I'm bad with money with I'm learning new habits every day. Replace I don't make enough with I can find creative ways to grow my income. This isn't about fake positivity, it's about rewiring your brain to believe in new possibilities. What you focus on expands. If you focus on lack, you'll see lack. If you focus on freedom, you'll see opportunities for freedom everywhere. The power of visualization. Your brain is wired to move toward the pictures you hold in your mind. That's why athletes visualize success before they compete. They see themselves winning before they step onto the field. You can do the same with money. Close your eyes and picture your life completely debt-free. See yourself making that last payment. Imagine your bank account growing. Feel the relief of no more bills hanging over you. The clearer you make that vision, the more motivated you'll be to make it real. I once worked with a man who printed out a fake mortgage statement with the words, "Paid in full" stamped across it. He taped it to his fridge. Every day, he saw that vision. And every day, he worked toward it. 2 years later, that vision became reality. Pause and ask yourself, what picture of financial freedom am I holding in my mind right now? Daily habits of a reprogrammed mindset. Mindset isn't just about what you believe. It's about what you practice daily. Here are a few habits that will rewire your relationship with money. Gratitude. Start each day by listing 3 things you're grateful for. Gratitude shifts your focus from scarcity to abundance. Budgeting. Write down where every dollar goes. Awareness creates control. Affirmations. Speak positive truths about your financial future. Words shape thoughts, and thoughts shape actions. Learning. Read books, listen to podcasts, watch content that grows your money wisdom. Generosity. Give, even in small amounts. It reminds you that money flows through you, not just to you. When you combine these habits, you begin to live with intention instead of reaction. Stories of a changed mindset. I once coached a woman who grew up hearing, "We'll never have enough." As an adult, she overspent to escape that feeling of lack. When she began to reprogram her mindset, she wrote down a new belief. I have more than enough to build the life I want. She repeated it daily, tracked her money, and slowly saw her behavior change. Within 5 years, she was debt-free and saving for her first home. Another man told me, I always believed I was bad with money. Once he challenged that belief, he started reading books, learning new skills, and practicing discipline. He now says, I'm great with money because I decided to become great. His mindset was the turning point. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write down 3 limiting beliefs you've held about money. Then, rewrite each one as an empowering belief. Post them somewhere you'll see daily, on your bathroom mirror, your phone wallpaper, or your fridge. Every time the old script tries to play in your mind, replace it with the new one. Over time, your thoughts will change, and so will your results. Pause and ask yourself, if I believed I could be completely free, how would I act differently starting today? Closing engagement. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's one limiting belief you're ready to let go of, and what new belief will you replace it with? Share it in the comments. You never know who you might inspire. And if this chapter encouraged you, don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend who needs to reprogram their money mindset. Because when you change how you think, you change how you live. And when you change how you live, you step boldly onto the path of being debt-free for life. Chapter 11. The Power of Discipline. If there's one trait that separates people who stay stuck from people who break free, it's not intelligence, luck, or even income. It's discipline. Discipline is the bridge between goals and results. It's the ability to say no when everyone else says yes. It's the strength to keep moving when the excitement wears off. Money freedom isn't about one big decision. It's about small, consistent choices made day after day. And discipline is what makes those choices possible. Pause and ask yourself, how disciplined am I with money right now? Where do I struggle the most? Why discipline beats talent? You might think some people are just better with money. They budget naturally, save easily, and seem wired for success. But the truth is, nobody is born good with money. Everyone learns it. And the ones who succeed are simply the ones who practice discipline the longest. Think about fitness. Some people are naturally athletic, but the ones who get lasting results are those who show up consistently. The same is true for money. You don't need to be gifted, you need to be disciplined. Daily money discipline. Discipline doesn't have to be complicated. It's built through daily habits like these. Creating and sticking to a budget. Telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. tracking expenses, writing down every purchase so nothing slips through the cracks, delaying gratification, waiting before making non-essential purchases, automating savings and payments, removing temptation by setting systems that work in your favor, saying no often. Not every invitation, purchase, or deal deserves your yes. These choices may feel small, but added up, they create a powerful track record of discipline. Pause and ask yourself, which of these habits could I commit to today? Discipline in debt. Freedom. Paying off debt requires discipline more than anything else. It's discipline that keeps you from swiping a card when you're tired. Discipline that makes you throw every extra dollar at your smallest balance instead of upgrading your phone. Discipline that keeps you focused when others try to pull you back into the trap. I once knew a family who paid off over $80,000 in 3 years. Their secret wasn't winning the lottery or earning six figures. Their secret was discipline. They stuck to their budget, cut expenses, and stayed focused. Every time they were tempted, they reminded themselves of their vision. That kind of focus is what creates freedom. The battle of consistency. Discipline is easy when you're motivated. The first month of budgeting feels exciting. The first debt payoff feels thrilling. But what happens in month 6 when the excitement wears off? That's when discipline matters most. Consistency is discipline in action. It's not glamorous, but it's powerful. Every month you stick to your plan, you build trust with yourself. And when you trust yourself, you stop sabotaging your own success. Pause and ask yourself, do I quit when the excitement fades, or do I have the consistency to keep going? Discipline versus deprivation. Some people think discipline means living a joyless, deprived life. But true discipline isn't about punishment. It's about purpose. It's not saying no forever. It's saying no for now, so you can say yes to something bigger later. Think about it. When you skip eating out for a month, you're not depriving yourself. You're building margin. When you drive a used car instead of a new one, you're not missing out. You're buying freedom. Every disciplined choice is an investment in your future. Stories of strong will. I once knew a man who decided he would never borrow money again. Not even for a car. His friends thought he was crazy. But he stayed disciplined. He saved, paid cash, and drove reliable cars without payments for the rest of his life. Looking back, he realized his discipline saved him tens of thousands of dollars. Another woman committed to a written budget for a full year. She told me, "Some months I hated it, but every time I stuck with it, I felt stronger." By the end of that year, she had paid off her credit cards and saved her first emergency fund. Her discipline was the turning point. How to build discipline. If discipline doesn't come naturally to you, don't worry. It's a muscle you can grow. Here are some ways to strengthen it. Start small. Pick one area like tracking spending and master it before adding more. Use accountability. Share your goals with a trusted friend or partner. Reward progress. Celebrate milestones in meaningful but budget-friendly ways. Stay connected to your why. Write down the reason you want to be debt-free and review it daily. The stronger your discipline muscle becomes, the easier each decision will feel. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Pick one area of your financial life where you've lacked discipline. Maybe it's impulse spending, skipping your budget, or ignoring debt. Commit to practicing discipline in that one area for the next 30 days. Pause and ask yourself, if I mastered discipline in this one area, how would it change my life? Closing engagement. Now it's your turn. Drop a comment below and share. What's one area where you're ready to practice more discipline with money? Let's encourage one another to stay consistent. And if this chapter pushed you forward, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that discipline is the key to freedom. Because talent may open doors, luck may bring opportunities, and income may rise and fall. But discipline is the one thing that guarantees progress. And discipline is what will carry you to a life that's truly debt-free for life. Chapter 12. Growing your income. There's a limit to how much you can cut from your budget. You can only reduce expenses so far before you hit the basics: food, shelter, utilities. But there's no limit to how much you can grow your income. That's why, if you want to accelerate your journey to financial freedom, you need to think not just about saving money, but about making more of it. Cutting expenses creates margin. Growing income creates momentum. When you combine both, you become unstoppable. Pause and ask yourself, am I relying only on cutting back? Or am I also finding ways to grow my income? The mindset shift. Many people believe income is fixed. They say things like, "This is just what I make," or "There's no way to earn more." But that's rarely true. In today's world, opportunities to grow income are everywhere if you're willing to get creative and put in the work. The first shift is believing that your income is not a ceiling. It's a starting point. You have skills, talents, and opportunities waiting to be tapped. When you embrace that mindset, doors begin to open. Using your current job. The easiest way to grow your income is to start where you already are. Can you ask for a raise? Can you take on more responsibility? Can you develop new skills that make you more valuable? I once coached a man who worked in sales. Instead of complaining about his pay, he invested time into becoming the top performer on his team. Within a year, his income doubled. He told me, "The opportunity was always there. I just had to go after it." Pause and ask yourself, am I giving my best at my current job, or just doing the minimum? Side hustles and part-time work. Sometimes your main job isn't enough, or you need extra momentum to pay off debt quickly. That's where side hustles and part-time work come in. The possibilities today are endless. Driving for rideshare or delivery apps. Freelancing online, writing, design, coding, tutoring, selling products or crafts. Offering local services like pet sitting, cleaning, or lawn care. Flipping items online for profit. I once knew a couple who delivered pizzas at night while working full-time jobs. Every tip, every extra paycheck went toward their debt. In less than 3 years, they paid off their house. They told me, "We were tired, but it was worth it." Pause and ask yourself, what skill, service, or opportunity could I use to earn extra income right now? Turning passions into profits. Another powerful way to grow income is by turning passions into profits. Maybe you love photography, fitness, baking, or teaching. Those passions can become side businesses with the right effort. I met a woman who loved baking cupcakes. She started selling them to friends and coworkers. Soon, she had a steady side business that helped her pay off $20,000 in debt. She said, "I never thought my hobby could change my finances, but it did." What do you love doing that others might pay for? Don't underestimate the value of your passions. The power of multiple streams. The wealthiest people rarely rely on one source of income. They build multiple streams, different ways money flows into their lives. You may not be wealthy yet, but you can apply the same principle. A job, plus a side hustle, plus an online project, plus investments. That's how you build resilience and momentum. Imagine losing your job tomorrow. If you had 3 other small income streams, you wouldn't panic. That's the power of diversification. Guarding against lifestyle creep. Here's the warning. As your income grows, your spending will be tempted to grow with it. That's lifestyle creep. You get a raise and suddenly you want a nicer car. You earn more and suddenly eating out every night feels normal. Don't fall for it. Remember your goal. Every extra dollar you earn should be a soldier fighting for your freedom, not another chain tying you down. I once coached a man who doubled his income but stayed in debt because he doubled his lifestyle too. The money came and went without building freedom. Don't let that be your story. Pause and ask yourself, if my income grew tomorrow, would I use it to buy more stuff or to buy my freedom? Stories of growth. One single mom I worked with took on a second job cleaning offices at night. It wasn't glamorous, but every dollar went toward her debt. Within 2 years, she was debt-free. She said, "I didn't love the work, but I loved what the work gave me freedom." Another man built a small online store selling t-shirts. At first, it was just a hobby, but within a year, the extra income helped him max out his emergency fund and begin investing. He told me, "I never thought a side hustle would change my life, but it did." A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Brainstorm at least 5 ways you could grow your income. Don't censor yourself. Write down every idea, no matter how small or unusual. Then pick one to act on this week. Not next month, not next year. This week. Even if it only brings in $100, that's $100 you didn't have before, and it can go directly toward your freedom. Pause and ask yourself, what's one step I can take this week to grow my income? Closing engagement. Now I'd love to hear from you. What's one idea you have for growing your income? Share it in the comments. You might inspire someone else to take action. And if this chapter gave you motivation, don't forget to hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend who's ready to earn their way to freedom. Because when you cut expenses and grow your income, you're not just speeding up your journey, you're proving that nothing can stop you from being debt-free for life. Chapter 13. Building True Wealth. Paying off debt is powerful. Building savings is essential. But the ultimate goal isn't just to get out of the hole, it's to climb the mountain. That mountain is wealth. True wealth isn't about flashy cars or giant houses. It's about peace, security, and the ability to live life on your own terms. For years, your focus has been on escaping debt. Now, as your chains fall away, you have the opportunity to redirect that same energy toward building lasting wealth. This is where your financial story shifts from survival to success. Pause and ask yourself, what does true wealth mean to me? Not the world, not society, but me. The difference between rich and wealthy. Many people confuse being rich with being wealthy. Rich is about income. Wealthy is about freedom. You can be rich and broke at the same time if your lifestyle swallows every dollar you earn. But wealth means you own assets, have no payments, and your money works for you, even while you sleep. I once knew a doctor who earned nearly $500,000 a year. On the outside, he looked successful, but his mansion, cars, and vacations were all financed. If his income stopped, his entire world would collapse. He was rich, but not wealthy. Contrast that with the school teacher I mentioned earlier. She lived modestly, invested steadily, and avoided debt. By retirement, she was a millionaire. Not because of a giant salary, but because of steady habits. She wasn't rich by society's standards, but she was wealthy in the truest sense. Pause and ask yourself, would I rather look rich or be wealthy? The formula for wealth. Wealth isn't complicated. It comes down to 3 steps. Save consistently. Protect yourself from emergencies and create a cushion. Invest wisely. Put your money to work in vehicles that grow over time. Avoid debt forever. Stay free from chains that drain your wealth. Do this long enough, and wealth is inevitable. The power of compound growth. Albert Einstein once called compound interest the 8th wonder of the world. Why? Because over time, money that earns interest begins to grow on itself. Imagine you invest $500 a month for 30 years, averaging just 8% growth. Do you know what that becomes? Over $700,000. If you kept going a little longer, it would pass $1 million. That's the power of consistent investing, small choices today that multiply into massive results tomorrow. I met a young man who started investing at 20. By 50, he had more wealth than he ever dreamed, not because of luck, but because he gave compound growth time to work. That's the secret. Start as soon as you can, stay consistent, and let time do its magic. Building assets, not liabilities. To build true wealth, you must learn the difference between assets and liabilities. Assets put money in your pocket: investments, businesses, real estate you own outright. Liabilities take money out of your pocket: car loans, mortgages, credit cards. Wealthy people focus on building assets. Broke people collect liabilities disguised as assets. A financed car is not an asset. It's a liability. A home with 30 years of payments is not fully an asset. It's a partial liability until it's paid off. Your goal is simple. Grow your assets, eliminate your liabilities. Pause and ask yourself, am I building assets or collecting liabilities? The generational shift. When you build wealth, it's not just for you. It's for your children, grandchildren, and the generations to come. Too many families pass down debt and struggle. But you can be the one who changes that. I once met a man whose grandfather paid cash for everything and invested consistently. Because of his discipline, the entire family inherited security and opportunities. His children went to college debt-free. His grandchildren had a foundation for their own dreams. That's the power of true wealth. It outlives you. Guarding against greed. As you begin to build wealth, there's a danger greed. You may be tempted to chase risky investments, shortcuts, or get-rich-quick schemes. Don't fall for it. True wealth is steady, patient, and wise. Remember, slow and steady wins. Flashy shortcuts usually lead to losses. Stay consistent, stay disciplined, and let your wealth grow over time. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write down your long-term wealth vision. Not just how much money you want, but what you want it to provide. Do you want to retire early? Travel? Give generously? Create generational security? Then, commit to one concrete step toward that vision this month, whether it's opening an investment account, increasing your savings, or paying extra on your home. Pause and ask yourself, if I started building wealth today, where could I be 10 years from now? Closing engagement. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What's your personal definition of wealth, and what's one step you're taking to build it? Share it in the comments. You might inspire someone else to begin their journey. And if this chapter lit a fire in you, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend who's ready to build real wealth, not just the illusion of it. Because the truth is, anyone can look rich for a moment. But those who live with discipline, vision, and consistency will build something far greater. True, lasting wealth. And that is the foundation of living debt-free for life. Chapter 14. The Freedom Lifestyle. Close your eyes for a moment and imagine what your life would look like if every dollar you earned belonged to you. No car payments, no credit card balances, no mortgage dragging you down. Just pure freedom. What would you do? Travel more? Give more? Spend more time with your family? Start a business? The freedom lifestyle isn't about having millions. It's about living without chains. When your money works for you instead of against you, doors open that you didn't even know existed. Pause and ask yourself, what would I do with my life if I didn't owe anyone a dime? The true reward of debt freedom. The greatest reward of becoming debt-free isn't just financial, it's emotional. It's the peace of waking up without the weight of bills pressing on your chest. It's the confidence of knowing you're in control. It's the joy of making decisions based on desire, not desperation. I once spoke with a man who paid off over $90,000 in debt. When I asked him how it felt, he said, "I feel like I got my life back." That's what the freedom lifestyle gives you, your life back. Choices, not chains. Debt removes choices. It forces you to stay in jobs you hate because you need the paycheck. It makes you postpone dreams because payments eat up your income. It chains you to lenders who decide how you spend your future. But when you're debt-free, the opposite happens. You gain choices. Want to move across the country? You can. Want to take time off to raise your kids? You can. Want to give generously to someone in need? You can. That's the freedom lifestyle. Not endless luxury, but endless choice. Pause and ask yourself, what choices would I make differently if I were free from debt today? Stories of freedom. I once met a woman who had dreamed of starting her own business for years, but with student loans and credit cards, she felt trapped in her corporate job. When she finally became debt-free, she had the courage to launch her own bakery. Today, she wakes up every morning excited to do what she loves. Another couple shared that their debt-free lifestyle allowed them to travel the world. Instead of posting pictures of luxury financed by credit cards, they paid cash for every adventure. It's not about showing off, they said. It's about actually living. Generosity without fear. One of the most beautiful parts of the freedom lifestyle is the ability to give. When you're in debt, generosity feels risky. But when you're free, you can give without fear. You can help family, support causes, or bless strangers, all without wondering if you can afford it. I once knew a man who quietly paid off his friend's medical bills after becoming debt-free. He told me, "That was the best money I've ever spent." That's the kind of joy the freedom lifestyle unlocks. Redefining retirement. For many, retirement means waiting until 65 to finally rest. But the freedom lifestyle redefines retirement. It's not about age, it's about options. When you live debt-free and build wealth, you can choose to work less, change careers, or stop working altogether whenever you want. Imagine being in your 40s or 50s and realizing you no longer have to work for survival. You can work because you want to, not because you need to. That's true retirement, and it can happen much sooner than you think. Guarding the freedom lifestyle. Once you achieve debt freedom, you must guard it carefully. The temptation to slip back into old habits will always be there. Lifestyle creep whispers, "You deserve a new car." Advertisements scream, "Finance it now." Friends may pressure you to upgrade. But remember, freedom is more valuable than appearances. Protect it fiercely. Continue living intentionally, budgeting and avoiding debt. Because once you've tasted freedom, no purchase is worth losing it. Pause and ask yourself, what boundaries do I need to set to protect my freedom? A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Write out your vision of the freedom lifestyle. Be specific. Where would you live? How would you spend your days? Who would you help? What dreams would you pursue? Then, keep that vision somewhere you can see it daily. Let it remind you why the journey is worth it, because you're not just chasing numbers. You're building a life. Closing engagement. Now I'd love to hear from you. What does the freedom lifestyle look like for you? Share your vision in the comments. You might inspire someone else to keep pushing forward. And if this chapter sparked your imagination, hit like, subscribe for more, and share this video with a friend who needs hope that freedom is possible. Because this isn't just about paying off debt. It's about reclaiming your choices, your peace, and your joy. That's what it means to live the freedom lifestyle. That's what it means to be debt-free for life. Chapter 15. Guarding your freedom. Breaking free from debt is an incredible victory, but staying free is an even greater challenge. Many people fight their way out of debt, celebrate their new freedom, and then, a few years later, find themselves right back in the same chains. Why? Because they didn't guard their freedom. Debt freedom is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. If you don't protect it, the world will happily drag you back into borrowing, spending, and struggling. The same culture that convinced you debt was normal is still out there, waiting to pull you back in. Guarding your freedom means staying vigilant, setting boundaries, and protecting what you worked so hard to earn. Pause and ask yourself, am I building habits that will keep me free, or am I slowly slipping back into old patterns? The danger of lifestyle creep. The biggest enemy of freedom is lifestyle creep. This happens when, as your income grows, your spending grows right alongside it. You get a raise, so you upgrade your car. You earn more, so you move into a bigger house. Before you know it, you're back in debt, not because you didn't make enough, but because you didn't guard your margin. I once coached a man who worked his way out of $50,000 in debt. He was free for the first time in years, but instead of protecting that freedom, he financed a brand new SUV because he deserved it. Within 6 months, he was back in payments and back in stress. His story is a warning. If you don't guard your freedom, you'll lose it. Pause and ask yourself, have I let lifestyle creep steal my margin? Building new habits. The habits that got you out of debt are the same habits that will keep you free. Budgeting, tracking spending, saying no when everyone else says yes. These aren't temporary steps. They're lifelong disciplines. Think of it like health. If you lose weight, you can't go back to eating junk every day and expect to stay healthy. The same is true with money. Freedom requires maintenance. I once met a woman who had been debt-free for over 20 years. When I asked her secret, she said, "I never stopped budgeting." That simple habit protected her freedom for decades. Protecting against emergencies. Another key to guarding your freedom is protecting yourself from emergencies. That's why we build a fully funded emergency fund, 3 to 6 months of expenses saved. With that cushion, you don't have to panic when life happens. Without an emergency fund, even the smallest crisis, a broken appliance, a medical bill, a car repair can send you back to borrowing. But with savings in place, emergencies become inconveniences, not disasters. Pause and ask yourself, if an emergency hit tomorrow, would I be prepared, or would I fall back into debt? Guarding your mindset. Freedom is also protected in the mind. The culture around you will never stop pushing credit cards, car loans, and buy now, pay later schemes. Guarding your freedom means refusing to buy into those lies again. Remind yourself often, debt is a trap, not a tool. Say it out loud if you have to. Keep your why in front of you, whether it's peace, family, travel, or generosity. Guard your mindset, and you'll guard your future. Giving as protection. Generosity is one of the best guards against slipping back into greed and debt. When you give, you remind yourself that money isn't the goal. Freedom, purpose, and impact are. Giving keeps you grounded. It prevents you from slipping into the trap of more, more, more. I once knew a family who made giving their top priority after becoming debt-free. They said, "Generosity is what keeps us from falling back into old habits." They discovered that giving wasn't just a blessing to others, it was a safeguard for themselves. Stories of guarded freedom. One couple I worked with became completely debt-free and paid off their home, but they didn't stop there. They built an emergency fund, kept living below their means, and continued budgeting. Today, 15 years later, they're still debt-free and now live in abundance. Another man shared that after paying off his last loan, he cut up his credit cards and never opened another one. He said, "I never want to go back, so I removed the temptation completely." That's what guarding your freedom looks like, making intentional choices to protect what you've earned. A challenge for you. Here's your challenge for this chapter. Identify one area of vulnerability where you might slip back into debt. Is it lifestyle creep? Lack of savings? Impulse spending? Write it down and create a plan to guard against it. For example, if lifestyle creep tempts you, commit to saving or investing every raise instead of spending it. If emergencies are a risk, prioritize building your full emergency fund. If impulse spending is your weakness, set a 24-hour rule before any purchase. Pause and ask yourself, what specific steps can I take today to guard my freedom for tomorrow? Closing engagement. Now it's your turn. What's one way you're going to guard your financial freedom? Share it in the comments. You might give someone else the key to staying free. And if this chapter gave you clarity, hit like, subscribe for more, and share it with a friend who needs to protect their own financial journey. Because debt freedom isn't just about getting out once, it's about staying out for life. Guard your freedom, and you'll never have to fight those chains again. That's the path to true, lasting peace. Chapter 16. Debt-free forever. Take a deep breath. You've walked this journey step by step, facing your debts, reshaping your mindset, building discipline, creating a foundation, and embracing freedom. Now we arrive at the destination, a life that is not just temporarily free, but debt-free forever. This isn't about a moment of victory, it's about a new identity. You are no longer someone who drowns in payments, who fears the mailbox, who hides from statements. You are someone who lives free, with peace, strength, and vision for the future. Pause and ask yourself, what does it mean for me to fully step into my identity as a debt-free person? More than money. Debt freedom isn't just about numbers, it's about transformation. Along this journey, you've become someone different. Someone who tells money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Someone who lives with contentment instead of chasing approval. Someone who chooses discipline over impulse, peace over pressure, and vision over fear. Money touches every part of our lives. When you heal your relationship with money, you often find yourself healing other parts of your life too. You communicate better with your spouse. You sleep better at night. You dream bigger because the weight is gone. The ripple effect. Here's what's powerful. Your decision doesn't just affect you, it affects everyone around you. When your children watch you live debt-free, they grow up believing that freedom is normal. When your friends see your example, they realize they can do it too. When your community experiences your generosity, they're impacted for generations. I once spoke with a man who became debt-free in his 40s. He said, "I thought this was just about me, but now my kids are following the same path. I broke the cycle." That's the ripple effect of freedom. Pause and ask yourself, who in my life will be impacted when I live debt-free forever? Living debt-free. Day by day. Being debt-free. Forever doesn't mean you'll never face temptation again. There will still be shiny cars, easy loans, and credit card offers promising perks. But your new identity means you can look temptation in the eye and say, "No thanks, I choose freedom." Here are a few ways to live debt-free day by day. Keep budgeting. Even wealthy people budget. It's the roadmap that keeps you on track. Stay intentional. Every dollar has a purpose. Use it wisely. Protect your margin. Avoid lifestyle creep. Remember, more income should build more freedom, not more payments. Continue saving and investing. Let your money grow for the future instead of vanishing today. Practice gratitude. Gratitude keeps you grounded and content. Freedom isn't automatic. It's maintained by daily choices. Stories of lasting freedom. I once met a retired couple who had lived debt-free for decades. They said, "The best part isn't the money, it's the peace." They traveled, gave generously, and enjoyed time with family, all without the shadow of payments. Their story proves that debt-free living isn't just a phase, it can last a lifetime. Another man shared that after paying off his last debt, he carried a piece of his cut-up credit card in his wallet as a reminder. He said, "Every time I see it, I remember who I am. Free." Sometimes a simple symbol can anchor you to your new identity. The gift of generosity. One of the greatest joys of staying debt-free is the ability to give generously. When you're no longer chained to lenders, you can use your money to bless others, create opportunities, and leave a legacy. Imagine being the person who helps a struggling family, funds a community project, or sends a young student to college. That's the kind of impact debt-free living allows. Generosity becomes your new way of life. Pause and ask yourself, how do I want to use my freedom to make a difference? A final challenge. Here's your final challenge. Decide today that debt is no longer part of your story. Not just for now. Not just until the next emergency. Forever. Write it down. Say it out loud. Tell someone you trust. Make it your declaration. I am debt-free forever. Then, commit to guarding your freedom, building wealth, and using your life to impact others. Because your journey doesn't end here, it begins here. Closing engagement. Now, I'd love to hear from you. What part of this journey has impacted you the most? Was it facing your debts, changing your mindset, or finally imagining your freedom lifestyle? Share your story in the comments. You might be the encouragement someone else needs to start. And if this book inspired you, don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and share it with someone who's ready to break free. Because debt freedom isn't just a dream, it's a choice. And when you choose to live with discipline, courage, and vision, you unlock a life that no lender can ever control. This is your story now, your new identity, your declaration. You are debt-free forever.